Learning has been part of our life since the beginning of time. Although methodologies have changed throughout centuries, the core model of teaching is still the same. That is, teacher, student, and the relationship between the two. Fast forward to the 21st century. Technology has enhanced teaching through providing tools and resources to make learning more enjoyable. 2020 brought about dramatic changes in education at all levels, such as the widespread switch to online schooling and using cloud-based tools to enhance the learning experience. But even with all the available technologies, there still needs the human connection between the student and the teacher. On this episode of God Dreamers, educator Joyce Pereira will be sharing her experience teaching in many cultural environments and how God has guided her in fulfilling her purpose in teaching. That's what's next on God Dreamers. Hey guys, Todd here. Welcome to another edition of God Dreamers. And I'm excited about today because we're going to be heading to South Korea, Seoul, South Korea. I mean, not physically, but through technology. We're going to kind of head over there and meet a new friend of mine, actually. We just recently met, and I'm really excited about what she has to share about her experience. And we're going to be talking a little bit about education. We're going to talk about faith and education and culture. So all those three different things I think are going to be kind of really unique, and I can't wait to get started. So without further ado, my friend, newfound friend, Joyce Pereira, thank you for being on God Dreamers.
Yay, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Me too. And so you're in South Korea right now, Seoul, South Korea. So we're 14 hours difference. I'm in Atlanta. And so there's a roughly 14-hour difference. So it's in the evening here in Atlanta, but it's in the morning there. It's like 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. roughly?
9 a.m. on a Saturday morning.
Wow, that is so strange. To be on the other side of the planet and, thousands of miles away, and we're just talking like you're next door or right here. Isn't that fascinating?
Love it. Oh, man. So cool. I
know. It allows us to all come together so easily. So thank you for technology. This is a good example of great technology.
Oh my gosh.
Speaking of technology, now Joyce, tell us a little bit about your background, because we share something that's kind of cool in the sense of technology and computers and all that good stuff. So share a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I currently teach computer science to high school students here at Korea International School. And ever since I started teaching, my first year mentor teacher was a tinkerer. And I'm so blessed that she was my mentor because she instantly removed any kind of fear of piloting new things. And she would say, Joyce, it's a pilot. If it doesn't work, it's okay, because you're just in pilot mode, but you get exposure to so many really interesting things that are out there to really give students amazing and extended learning experiences in your classroom. And so because of that first year experience, I never feared tinkering or using technology in the classroom, and anything the school had to offer, I'd be like, I'm on the list, I'll be more than glad to test it out in my space. And so because I was always a tinkerer, I was always placed in a position to be supporting students and colleagues and faculty with trying out some different tools and using different technology in new ways to enhance learning experiences. And I actually went to school for math and physics and then went into education. And so I never did computer science before, but as I began being placed in these positions, I really fell in love with this course and all the amazing things computer science had to offer myself and my students. And so here I am 13 years later teaching computer science to high schoolers in different parts of the world. I was in Brazil, then in Atlanta, Georgia, and now in Korea. And it's been a fascinating journey, both content-wise in computer science and just worldwide, just going around and being able to teach this subject to so many different people.
Wow, that's so awesome. Now, you guys heard what she said. She said math and physics. Now, you've probably lost a few of our audience already when you mentioned that.
Yes.
Everybody's like, oh, math and physics. I hated that. So, so how did, so growing up, did you have an interest in the, science and technologies growing up, or was that something that you just kind of later on in life, you could had, started becoming more interested in?
In high school, I was in Brazil during high school, and my physics and math teachers just captivated me in the way that they explained it, and I just really clicked with the content. So when I went to college, Erskine College, to start learning and studying physics and math, I enjoyed the topics, but then I realized that the more and more in depth I got, the less people I saw because the labs were very isolating, and we had something called a January term where they let us experience different things and just let us have a break from our regular curriculum. And while I was in Brazil, I worked with the deaf community. And so near Erskine, there in Spartanburg, they have a school for the deaf and blind. And so I said, I want to do an internship for the month of January under the education department. And I'm going to go and just work with these kids. And the professors, Dr. Emery, Dr. Jumper, and I, we just clicked. And they're like, Joyce, have you ever considered teaching math and physics? And I was like, I get to be with people. I get to talk about what I like to talk about. When? And I just said, can y'all graduate me in 2 years? Because I was entering my junior year in college. And they're like, if you work hard, we'll get you through your classes. Because I said, I can't stay extra time here. I said, I have a deadline. I must graduate. In 2007 it was. And so they said, we got it. If you're going to put in the effort, we'll help you. And so that was my transition from the math and physics world to education. But it was because I knew myself. I'm a people person. I have to be with people. And so when I saw that I was becoming more and more isolated, I wasn't happy, even though I loved the subject areas.
Yeah.
And that month was just transformative because they're like, and I haven't looked back. Like I was meant to do this.
Wow. I mean, that's so cool because that's great that you mentioned that your professors kind of had a really good hand in helping you to kind of transition. A lot of people don't have that opportunity. So that's truly a big blessing.
It was a small school. Small schools do that.
Yeah. Good point there. Good point. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. So you transitioned to computer science, and that's a little bit. I mean, the cool thing about math and physics, that's the foundation for a lot of things in computer science that you utilize. I mean, computer science is almost to me like how you apply those types of technologies, and so and skills and disciplines. So the transition was easy for you for the most part. Or
it was very gradual. So it wasn't a jump. And so when I started teaching, and again, the tinkering part, and they're like, Joyce, would you mind taking this or teaching this course? I was very honest. I said, I know what I know, and I know what I don't know, and I need training. And so I was very open about my limitations, so that if they were still going to put me in that position, I said, I need training. And so I started teaching what we call a digital society course from the IB. And it wasn't super computer science heavy. It had a lot of the foundational part of systems, computing systems, and it was really good for me to learn that first and be teaching that. And then when I went to Atlanta, that conversation came up again. Joyce, we would like to start a computer science program and teach the DP course. And I said, again, I know what I know, but I need training, for what I don't know. And I just had wonderful colleagues who really supported me. Rao Olayeye, she is a fantastic robotics teacher, and she just walked me and took me by the hand and just really mentored me. Being open to mentorship and just asking is such a powerful thing, because I want that for my students, and I'm a learner too, and I need to have that, I guess, humility of what I know and what I don't know to really get really good help. And so she was a wonderful support system. And when she left, I was heartbroken, but Lord brought in someone amazing. His name is Gilbert Jean-Baptiste. He worked with me for the remainder of my years there. Oh, he's fantastic. JB. JB. And just, he's a retired soccer player who just is amazing in the realm of computer science. Like, he went to school for it. Like, he loves it. Yeah. And just being his co-teacher, just watching him and being in his classroom and just hearing him teach the concepts that I had been formally trained in, but then I see the person bring that to life in the classroom. I learned leaps and bounds under his mentorship. And he's still one of the first people that I contact if there's something I'm not really clear about, or if there's another question that I hadn't heard from a student, I instantly reach out to him. And he is so generous with his ideas and resources, and just he even models teaching. So he'll record it himself, this is how he would do it. So he's so generous, and having these people around to support you or that supported me in this journey was very helpful, because computer science is complex. You know, it's a beautiful course, but there's so many complexities and nuances
Yeah.
and things that emerging. I needed a support system, and still do
Yeah.
as I teach this course.
Well, it's an ongoing learning process. I mean, being in
Absolutely.
technology, it's nonstop. I mean, things are changing so rapidly. New technologies, new ways of
Oh
doing
man.
things, especially in your arena. I mean, in computer science,
Oh.
that kind of runs everything now. When I was in school, I won't say when, many moons
Details.
ago. See, I'm an electrical engineer by schooling,
Yeah.
but back then, computers were, they were definitely important in a lot of things that we design. I mean, like with rocket propelled systems,
So
and
cool.
aircraft and all those things. But at the personal level, at home, you didn't really see the technology there yet. Now, the computer first kind of came about, and so you started applying that technology into
Yes.
just doing spreadsheets and Word documents.
Mhm.
But now, computers are used throughout your home to run your
Oh my gosh.
appliances, runs your
Yep.
your communication systems. You tell Siri to do these things on your phone, so it's kind of changed so drastically. So you mentioned something about that you were in Brazil. So that's where you're from?
I'm originally from Brazil, correct. So eu
What
falo
part?
português, eu sou fluente em português. Olá, brasileiros que
Oh,
estão assistindo.
all right now. I can't speak a lick. I know a little bit of Spanish.
Ooh, it's
Portuguese.
nice.
I know they're
Yeah.
a little bit similar, but
They do have their similarities.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So what part of Brazil are you?
So I was born in Limeira, São Paulo.
São
So
Paulo?
São
Okay.
Paulo.
So it's a
And
suburb or
so,
out of town of that
yeah,
area?
just a little bit. It was a little bit out. It wasn't in the capital, São Paulo, where it's the
Okay.
big bustling city of São Paulo. It's Limeira, which is, they have a lot of orange fields and trees, and it's a little bit in the outskirts. And so families from there, grandparents, everybody. And yeah, so I was kind of bouncing back and forth between Brazil and the United States. My father is a physicist. And so there's the little
Oh,
physics
I
and
didn't know
math thing
that.
from us. Yeah. And so he, because of his school and research, we moved to the United States, where I learned English, speaking English outside the home, and Portuguese inside the home. And so we were there for until I hit middle school. So maybe when I was 10 or 11 years old, we moved back to Brazil. And then I went to high school there, and then went back to the States for college. So kind of had that experience between the two countries
That
early
is so
on.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
So which place you like better? Which country you like better? Nah, I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's a tough. I mean, that's where we're just waiting for Kingdom Come at the end, where everything and all the wonderful things from all the different cultures come together.
Yeah.
Because there's beauty in so many different cultures. Yeah. And so I can't answer that question because I love things from Brazil and I love things from the States. And
yeah. I mean, we enjoy.
now I love things from Korea. So
yeah. So, I mean, you're kind of exposed to a lot of different cultures between the United States and South, Brazil, and then of course Korea. So I can only imagine I'll tell you one thing, for me being, from the Bahamas and living in the States and traveling, the great thing about all of that, and you can attest to this, is that just being able to see so many different people, so many different cultures, all the rich, beautiful things about people. So people who have not left the States, you need to get out and see the world, because your life will change.
I love the word. It's enriching. It really is. And humans are beautiful. It's so awesome just to see how there are some things that it's what makes us human.
Yeah,
connects us.
And and that's the thing I don't really understand. I know this is another topic, but that's the one thing I don't understand, how people can have so much hatred or maybe distrust of different cultures or different people.
Yeah.
Because you get to know them, you're like, man, they're just like us. Maybe they do things a little bit differently, but ultimately we're all the same. So,
oh my goodness,
but that's another discussion.
That's another discussion. It's beautiful.
So let's talk about faith a little bit. So your personal faith. So let's talk a little bit about purpose and how your faith has helped you to kind of develop to who you are today. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I grew up in a Christian home. And so that has its pros and cons, because things are so repetitive and it just becomes, okay, it's normal. And you don't really think about the things you've been taught. But that's where growing in maturity comes in. And, you go through situations and whatnot. And I just remember being around 11 or 12, and I was like, that's it. I just pray for Jesus to come in my heart, and that's it. And then it was just asking questions, really
Yeah.
was at the heart of everything. Like, what more is there? What does it actually mean? Is it just really doing, the right thing? And what is the right thing? And as you grow up, things aren't so black and white anymore. You're like, wow,
Yeah,
it's
that's
not, it
true.
seemed easier when you're little. And then you're like, wow, life is so complex and people's stories are so different. And you can't just like slap a verse on it and be like, it fixes everything for everyone in that situation. And so just kind of growing in the area where I began, I guess it was not intentional, but I just started inviting God to be a part of what would happen day to day, even like, oh, what am I going to wear for this special event? Or, just even small things. I just invite him because he's beautiful and creative and he knows what looks nice for this. Like even the small things. And that's how I began to reimagine Pray Without Ceasing. It was just like
Yeah.
inviting him to be a part of everything, even if it was putting on makeup, because it can be a daunting thing if you don't know what you're doing. And so just even these small things. And in my profession, when I started looking at what it meant to be a teacher and an educator, and just as I learned with professionals through professional development, and I have a really a connection with the Harvard Graduate School of Education. I've been exposed to a lot of the fantastic work from Project Zero that really has inspired me to become a better educator and to really reveal what does learning look like. And that's the questions they were asking, because over 50 years ago, intelligence was measured by IQ and those kinds of things. And then they're
Yeah.
like, well, does that really mean you understand? Does that mean you actually you're learning? And what does that look like, sound like, feel like in the classroom? And that's where Project Zero emerged. And I've been in contact through Atlanta International School. They had a really good partnership with them, and I learned so much. And if that's when you start seeing that truth is truth, no matter who says it, whether the person is a believer or not.
True.
And there was so much truth coming out of how people learn and what makes a person truly understand something. And it's all about asking questions and asking the right questions. And I just saw that modeled beautifully in how Jesus and just God throughout the Bible, he just asked questions, not for his information. He knew what was going on, but to reveal to those he asked what was in their hearts. And so I just saw, and he went first. Like Jesus went first. He didn't say, okay, y'all do this and tells other people what to do. He modeled what they were supposed to be doing. And one of the courses that I took that really stood out to me talked about culture. It's called the 8 cultural forces of thinking in the classroom. And I probably won't remember all of them because I'm on the spot right now. But the ones that stood out to me is the culture of language. If I use the language I, me versus you and we, and just how am I talking with my students, and that power of language, it's such a subtle thing, but it makes a huge difference in how I communicate or distribute information. So language modeling, like the transparency. I literally started showing my students my lesson planner, which was chaotic. It said, this is me crafting an experience for you. And I'm really wrestling with it because I want to curate the best information for you and be able to give you an experience. And so I showed them the mess. I would just show them the final product, and I said, no, I'm going to model my wrestling. I don't understand certain things. And so I modeled what I was thinking when I wrestled through questions and problems in the course. And so language, time, how we allocate our time, how we can be masters of the time. I know time is a huge issue for teachers, but we can creatively reimagine time and how we use the time. And it takes work. You're going to have to,
Yeah.
So, and opportunities, there are opportunities everywhere for learning, but if you don't have a mindset, you're not ready when the opportunity hits you. And so it's kind of being aware of situations and be ready to be flexible. So if something comes up, are you ready to change and go that direction when an opportunity emerges? So anyway, they go in the environment, what's your space like? Because the physical space is a teacher as well. And so these 8 cultural forces really started coming up, and I just saw that the fingerprints all over God's word, like he's creating environments for us to learn and thrive, and just even with the Garden of Eden, he's like, we're going to put you in a place of thriving, and I just saw so many overlaps, and truth is truth. And so I just like that he did it first. I can trace it back, of how he works with us. And they get it as educators, and they're uncovering that. And so that really helped align a lot of things where I just saw them overlapping so much of what learning looks like and modeling, and how that's how our Father takes care of us and teaches us. you
Yeah,
know?
I love that because right
Mhm.
now there's a really big push for separating faith and science, and in
And I get
actuality,
it.
they should be together in a lot of ways. I mean, like you said, God did it first. He created the heavens and earth, and it took physics, it took the science. I mean, all of
Mhm,
that was a part
mhm.
of the creation. So, I don't quite, I understand. Coming from an engineering background, and I wasn't always saved, so I questioned things too. I was like,
Mm, of course, yeah.
but, as my faith grew, and I learned more about the ways of God and through the Bible, I was seeing how
Mm,
awesome He is in terms of the creation, and I marvel every day. I mean, I marvel about the patterns. I look at an insect, I look at
oh my gosh, so
dirt,
good.
and I look at rainwater, I look at snow, and how the precision and
Oof.
just the detail of of His creation. I mean, how can you not realize that
Mm.
God is the ultimate?
Intelligent design right there.
Yeah, the ultimate scientist.
Yeah. And that's where you're right. And that's where I hear, and when I see verses differently, where he says, it's our glory to uncover his mysteries. Like he's like, yes, they discovered aerodynamics.
Yeah,
He's like, it's his thing. It's his thing. He
yeah,
knows. Yes, they harnessed electricity and they subdued it. That's the language, and he
yeah,
says he's inviting his creation and humans to like, let's come and subdue this world that has so many incredible things, and subdue not in a negative way, but like go discover it and control it in the way, get energy and electricity and subdue it and make it
yeah.
do awesome things for and it just tickles me. I get excited because
Me
he is
too.
the ultimate creator,
I'm over here like,
innovator,
yeah,
scientist, physicist, artist. I
yeah.
mean, nature is beautiful. He could have just made it functional, but it's
It's
beautiful and
beautiful.
it's therapeutical.
Yeah, I know.
When you go out in nature, it's like sometimes I don't need people right now. I just need to be in nature because it's beautiful.
And the cool thing about it is he endowed us with that same creativity and that same spirit. I was thinking about the other day. I also play music, and so I was just fiddling around, and I was hearing things, and I
Mm,
was like, man, God, you're so awesome because you allow us musicians and artists and scientists
mm,
to take things that's never been done before. Like when you play a melody, that melody has never been played before.
so
And when you
good.
listen to music, that's
Yeah.
new. That's basically creating something from scratch, from nothing,
Mhm,
really, from
mhm. It
nothing to
is.
something. Let's talk about culture a little bit. So
Mm,
you've come from a very diverse culture, different parts of the world, so to speak. So you've probably seen the differences in teaching styles, students, and so forth. So let's talk about your approach in teaching and how and there's a
mm.
lot of things that are going on right now. I know COVID has kind of thrown everything
Yes.
helter skelter, and so I know every teacher has
Mm,
been affected by that for sure. But can
absolutely.
you share a little bit about your teaching methodology and and how cultures are different in the way you approach teaching? Because I know when we had a conversation before, you kind of mentioned that the Korean way of teaching is a little bit different from the way how a teacher would respond in the U.S. So can you share a little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. Rich culture of over 5,000 years. And that's something I
Wow.
can't wrap my mind around. Like that is 5,000 years of a culture. And you can't just switch it on or off. That's just embedded and rooted. And it's a huge culture of respect and honor. It's an honor system. And you need to try to understand. I can't fully understand it because I wasn't raised in it. It is not my heritage or my culture, but it is everywhere. And I remember hearing, and again, this is me just paraphrasing what I heard
Uh-huh.
from a Korean faculty who came and was teaching us and helping us understand a little bit more of the culture we were coming into as first year teachers in Korea. And the value of the testing system and academics is extremely powerful here. And it's not saying, oh, the grade doesn't matter. It does. It does matter. And they were just saying how one of the last rulers set up an exam that would allow people from if you passed it, anyone, no matter what level in society you were in, if you passed this exam, you would be lifted up into a position of power. And that was literally life changing for people,
Wow.
where I could take a test and I could completely change the dynamics of my family for generations. And that test still exists today. And that just blows my mind, where it's over 1,000 years of tradition,
Oh,
from, if I understood correctly, of this test that helps you move into a position of power or occupy really good positions. And the country stops literally for this day when the students are going to go take this test. Airplanes are landed. They don't, everybody goes to work later. So they leave the roads and streets free for the students to go take this exam. And it's a huge deal.
wow.
And it was one of the things that they were saying, that many assumptions, if you teach in an international school, you're working with the elite. And that is true in many cases. But here in Korea, it's a little bit different, where they invest in at least one child. And so all the families pitching in financially, like grandparents and parents, are pitching in to invest in this child's education. It could be the oldest sibling in many cases. I'm not saying it's true for everyone. I don't want to generalize the situation, but they take it very seriously, and it's a huge investment. And the pressure is great on this child, because if it's just them and they are the ones that the family has invested in, it's a big burden for a 16-year-old to be buried, right?
Yeah.
And so just really understanding that, and not making assumptions when they are so tired. Here I've learned, and I'm still learning. Like I said, I've just been here for 6 months, and I do not want to assume that I know everything, which I absolutely don't. But there is a culture of what they say Hogwans, where our school is school for them, but the real education or the training comes after us. And so many kids will leave school, and I'm speaking high schoolers, a lot of high school, middle and high schoolers. That's kind of when they start, and they'll leave our school and they'll go to this other school, and they'll be there till 10, 11 midnight. And that is
Wow.
their day. They'll come back to school the next morning. So first period kids, it's hard. They are tired. But it's a lifestyle that they have had in middle and high school, where this Hogwan and this going to the school to really perfect certain areas, maybe in the math. So they'll pick the Hogwans they're going to if they really need to have extra support in a specific area. But that's my limited understanding of it. I'm sure
Yeah.
others know more, but it's very highly academic focused.
Well, that's fascinating. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm trying to imagine what that would be like here in the States, trying to do something like that. But that's,
Yeah.
like you said, that's a cultural thing that's been
Highly
around for
competitive.
thousands of years. And so another question here. So one of the challenges that I face, and I think we're facing a lot in the US, is the well, COVID is one of the areas, but the other area beyond the COVID is just the challenges of some of the schools, especially in the public school system, where a lot of teachers are really challenged right now because the kids are not seeing school as being relevant. I'm not saying all kids, but I'm saying there's
Mhm.
especially in the inner cities where where the kids don't really see education as a way to get out. They see it more of as a waste of time. So,
Mhm.
and I know you can't probably answer this, but I mean, what are your
Mhm.
thoughts on something like that? I was talking to, let me say this too. I was talking to my kids the other day. Um,
Mhm.
and this is a cultural thing for the African American community. When we were
Mhm.
growing up, my parents were the first generation of parents that really went to college,
Mhm.
or specialized in school, because their parents were working on farms and working,
Mhm.
working just, what we say blue collar type jobs.
Correct.
So when my parents came about, their emphasis has been go to school, get an education, get a career. And that was instilled in all of my siblings and my generation. And then when I had my kids, I was kind of doing the same
Mhm.
thing. It's like, well, go to
Yeah.
school. And then they were pushing back like, hey, we don't really need to go to school because we have YouTube. we have all these resources. And so I had to kind of
Mhm.
go back and rethink that. I was like, you know what? That is so true. And they're getting smarter too, because education has gotten so expensive. I mean, college
Oh my
education,
gosh.
higher education. I mean, when I was going to school, I was paying roughly about $300 a quarter,
Mhm. Mhm.
or basically
Mhm.
$1,000 a semester. And
Yeah.
these kids now are paying $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a
Glory.
semester. And so a lot of these kids are now questioning and saying, well, do I really want to get that kind of, $200,000, $300,000 of debt
Mm.
and have to pay that back the rest of my life, and most likely not even work in that field. So a lot of these kids are kind of changing their mindset, and
Yeah.
I was fearful at first because like, oh, that's
Mm.
not something that I was taught. Now,
Right,
when I
right.
started looking at it more and more, I'm seeing that the kids have a point there. So, you're kind of right. And so, yeah, there are requirements. Like if you want to be a doctor, you have to, that's a certain skill set that you have to go through the process. But, some of these other things like, English or something like that, maybe not necessarily require, 4 years or 6 years or so forth. And so I just started thinking about things a little bit
Oh,
different
yeah.
for my kids because of that. And a lot of these kids are, and I'm glad that they're thinking outside the box. But what are your thoughts about that? You think you
Yeah.
think that uh, process or the way things are being done should change? Are you seeing them
Oh,
change?
yes. They should change. We have education has been very behind, it's just the way we do things. And what is super exciting though is seeing so many people pioneer and reimagine what does education, what's its relevance today? Because here's the thing. I went to a conference at Georgia Tech, and the keynote speakers, oh my gosh, said something so good. She said, just because it's old doesn't mean it's bad. It's bad is bad.
Mhm.
Old, some old things can be good. And just because it's new doesn't automatically make it good and awesome. Good is good.
True.
And so this is where I think education worked for that season. So the way we see traditional education or whatever, it worked for that season, and it got people successful, and it got them through, and it helped the economy and the environment in which it was in then. We are no longer living the way we did back then, and things have changed, and you
Yes.
must change education to accompany what are the purposes and the workforces here. So, and a lot of schools are reimagining that, and a lot of teachers are reimagining their purpose because our role has changed significantly. And teachers who don't update that are going to be left behind. You have to, not update in the sense of the newest technology,
Yeah.
but how do you see your purpose in school? So for me, I see school as a place to expose kids to possibilities. That's what a school for me is for today. I'm exposing you. So you don't know about this English writer. Let me expose you to this writer and see if this is something of interest to you. Is this something, do you have a hidden gift of putting words together and writing about it and capturing ideas and conveying them written in a written format or in an
Yeah.
oral? And so this is where I'm like, I'm exposing you, and you may not like it, and that's not your thing, but you've been exposed to it. Math and science, and I'm exposing you to the beauty of formulas and understanding patterns and what you see around you to see if it's your thing. So I'm reimagining school. For me, I feel as all my classes are expository. I'm exposing you to possibilities, and I'm letting you, and hopefully you have a team of support with your counselors and everybody to help you ask you those questions about what connects with you, how I do a mashup of your skills to push you in a direction of even a job that doesn't exist yet. And an engineer actually talks about that, the jobs of the future. The jobs of the future are really just unique mashups that we never thought of before. So, for example, I enjoy graphic design and computer science. And now, is there a position for a graphic design and computer scientist? Well, now I can create that. I'm like, I can do this and this. So there's not a name for my job.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this yes and mentality where I will take that job because it takes up one of my skill sets, and I'm going to bring in this unique mashup of skills. I like how he put that. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. I love
Keep on
that.
saying the jobs of the future. Well, it's a mashup. We're unique. And now we're allowing people to discover their uniqueness and how my story can combine my skills, and I can now have something unique to offer in this role. And so, yes, education has to change. There are amazing schools and teachers, even in the public schools, just doing amazing things to reimagine the experiences they're creating for students.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. We're creating experiences. And yes, I agree, resources are out there, but we're getting to a point where there's so many that teachers are becoming curators. So I now offer you, so yes, you could search for hours for the best things and learn some things. You're going to go through a lot of crappy information too, like, that's not right.
Yeah.
But then the teacher, I feel that my role has been just curating. I'm trying to find, like, you know what? Yes, there's 100 of things, but here's like the top 5. And to get to the top 5 took me hours, and I just gave it to you. And so it's kind of like I became this curator of knowledge, and I help kids get to the best faster, as yes, they could research on their own time, and they're going to go through that filtering process, which is important. But I do think roles have changed, and education is changing. I mean, I see it, especially just the people I'm connecting with. There's a beautiful cohort on Twitter. Twitter I use for professional reasons only. And people are really reimagining schools. And a lot of things are changing, and it takes time to change because you need resources. The beautiful thing I like about Project Zero is that every conference or interaction I've been with, they don't use technology. They'll project it on the screen, but they're showing it's not about the technology. You do not need technology to learn. And I find that very powerful. And I appreciate that they do not emphasize a tool. They emphasize the thinking and what resources do you have and that can you use. Arthur Ashe said, do what you can, use what you can. Wait. Start where you are, use what you can, and do what you have. So when I go to school, I don't go to a new school. I don't make a list of, oh, I need this. I'm like, what do you have? I just start with, what do you guys have? And let me learn that platform. Let me, use the tools that you have available and try to figure out. Because if we're always thinking about what I don't have, it'll be miserable. But you need to think about, what do I currently have and how can I optimize its use? Paper and pencil go a long way, my friend.
I still use it. I still use it. I can't get into the test.
Nope, I still. No,
yeah, I like to write things down.
No, I like to write it down.
I have a connection there with the writing. I retain better.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure there's research behind all of that this part from here to here, it just, that connection, you having to write it does something.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh boy. So as we get ready to close, I wanted to just touch on one thing. So what's in your future? What do you see yourself, in the next few years? I mean, what are your plans?
Oh my goodness. Teaching. I can't imagine myself not teaching and learning. It's a craft. I like how someone said that teaching it's a craft, it's an art. And I just see myself pushing that. And could I share just one, I just wanted to share one of the things I think I did with what, like you had said, in the midst of so much technology in an ever-changing place, I think what has anchored me has been what I shared, the through lines, because I was a very overwhelmed and immature teacher at the beginning when I started being, the tech person, and I felt I had to keep up, and I can't. I said I immediately, after a couple of years, I'm like, I can't win this thing. There's always going to be a new tool. And it was where I was really thinking, Lord, what are the anchors? What is timeless, regardless of where I'm at? So it doesn't matter. And this is proven true as I move from Brazil or different countries. There are certain things that for me in my course that are just timeless. And so this is where I just wanted to share.
Yeah, I want to see it.
So we're going to use some of the new technology.
I like that.
You go. Prezi Video, it's free. If you want to download, maybe there's a paid version, and this is just improving, our experience. And so I believe, like, at the heart of technology, computer science, design, like even my title changes because, like, in Brazil, it was technology instructor. And then in Atlanta, I was a computer science teacher. Now I'm under design and innovation. And all of that is what I do. But at the heart of it, it's really about meeting human needs efficiently. That's what I do. That's what our students are doing. And it doesn't matter if they're in the realm of technology, in any area. If you're going to go into economy or if you're going to go into engineering, you're always going to find a way to meet a human need and make it more efficient. And that's where I try to bring the humanity back into my classroom. Like, everything we do, every app you use can be traced back to a human need, which kind of leads to my second through line, my little second anchor, that it's really all about, let's trace the stories of technology. Let's trace the stories of innovation. And let's look at the limitations and the benefits and imagine what's the next chapter, what's the next iteration. And I like this example because we have Uber and then and before we had taxis and trains and buses and then horse-drawn carriages. The heart of it is transportation. So how do I help move people or large groups of people faster with more comfort and ease and less work and energy on the human's part? And we talk about the benefits and limitations, but then we also notice that we create new problems, like our carbon footprint with the cars and airplanes. So nothing's perfect, but we're always thinking, okay, I understand the limitation. Let me find out what's the next step, what's the next update, and we can actually predict them if you are a careful observer. Like, what's the next iteration? What limitation am I going to minimize? And I love the language of minimize, because it's not that you're going to completely do away with all the problems, but you can minimize negative impact. And I think that's a powerful thing. Oh, yes, exactly. Exactly. And everybody can come in with their unique skill set. because I really think computer science, if taught with this mentality, it is the heart of STEAM. It's glue. So if you get Cirque du Soleil, it's a beautifully artistic, acrobatic, athletic, but they use technology to automate things and the visualizations. I mean, technology really allows us to extend and enhance our experience. And I just love the creative ways people do that. And then it's all about looking for patterns and trends so humans can make informed decisions. And if we are careful to look at that and just, again, be careful observers, be sensitive and empathetic to what's happening around us, we can identify patterns and trends, and it can make hopefully informed decisions regarding those. And some of the patterns that we've noticed in computer science has been, if it can be automated, it will become automated. So if there's anything like spreadsheets, if there's anything that you can automate, it will become automated. So thinking about that as they're, interacting with experiences around them. If it can be digitized, it's going to become digitized. If it can be customized, it will become customized. So that opportunity of choice is very powerful in our products. And as we innovate, how can I customize this experience for different users? Users have different abilities, people who have special needs. How can I enhance their experience by tweaking my tool to make it more accessible to them? So those kinds of patterns are things that we notice as innovators and designers. And I really think every student needs to think about, even in English or in any of their classes, how am I, enhancing someone's experience through the words that I write? Oh my goodness. I don't remember her, Amanda, the speaker at the inauguration. I mean, her craft for articulating, what a gift to be able to capture thoughts and express it that way.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
It's beautiful. It's so powerful. And just giving the kids opportunity to be like, you could learn, there are things that you could do, and even give them the opportunity to say, like, is that my passion? Can I, is that how I like to communicate, etc. Anyway, it's another conversation. So powerful.
It is.
And in my specific area, I like to deconstruct these really big, complex ideas and try to not simplify it, but make it more accessible. I think that's the language. I want to make a complex topic more accessible. And in programming, it can be very daunting to people, especially if they come in not knowing anything. But I like to just say, you know what, at the end of the day, in programming, you're just storing data. That's all we're doing, whether it's in a variable or in a data structure or whatever, you're just storing data. Why do we store it? If you don't store something, you can't access it. And so it's all about accessing information, manipulating, and I use the word manipulate because we do that positively and negatively in how we use data. And that's a huge ethics conversation that I do have with my students. And we do all this to share in creative ways, either through music, like you were saying, or through our social media. How we disseminate that data is a very powerful thing. And so I tell them every time we go through programming or code, this kind of humanizes the code. Because when we look at that very machine-like, text code, I'm like, okay, well, what's happening here? Oh, this is storing data. We're accessing data here. We're manipulating here through the function. And so I kind of help them see, they humanize the code a little bit and see what of these four are we doing at this time. But this one for me is at the heart of what I do. Because at the end of the day, I want students to say, you've got some power, you have some new skill sets, and you can take action for impact in your circle of influence. And many students say they want to be the next big thing, and I get it. And some will become, but not everybody will. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But I tell them, you have a circle of influence. We're in one now. Even you and I right now, we're in a circle of influence. And I tell kids, you can choose how you're going to participate in this circle. You can be an active participant. You can be a passive participant. You can just be observing, but you are in the circle of influence. And I think that gives them certain power that they can do something within that realm that they are in. And that's normally where I spend the second semester of our year, just focusing. We've learned a lot. We're still learning a couple more skill sets, but it's really, what action are you going to take now? What product are you going to build? And currently I'm partnering with one of the psychology teachers about how can we help people, especially with mental illness, and what different apps can we create, or what experiences can we craft for people who do have and are going through some difficult times, especially with COVID, where you're now isolated from people. And so we try to bring in situations where they're having to reimagine, how can I use this tool and the skills for app development or whatever that they're doing right now to really enhance somebody's experience. And so all that to
That's great.
say, when I tell my students, I'm like, you know what a designer is, a true designer? It's someone who is exploring how to create the ultimate user experience using what they have available in innovative ways. A lot of the things
Love
we
it.
do today, we couldn't do 10 years ago, 20 years, like even this Prezi video, the need for this is a telecommunication scenario. We talked about how pigeon carriers were a part of that story.
Yeah.
But this is enhancing user experience. I now have a visual and overlay that is enhancing this telecommunication experience with video, etc. And it's a powerful thing. You don't need it, but it enhances our experience, and it's using what we have in new ways. And so I push students, look at a common product and how can you reimagine its use, its purpose if you tweak the design a little bit. So it's not really creating something completely from nothing, but how might you reimagine what you currently have? And that reimagining is where the power and magic happen, because you got to look at it in a different way.
Yeah.
And anyway, and I just wanted to, like, with my part, how I see and envision my work, Tim Mackey talked about this, and I just thought it was beautiful. So this is how I see myself and others, is that we're creatively transforming chaos and complexity into order and beauty that brings joy and benefit to ourselves. I love what I do. Not everything is perfect, but I do love what I do. And I do bring joy and benefit to myself and others by viewing work and viewing what I do in this way.
Yeah.
So
That is
and
so
this
awesome.
is, yeah. Oh, this is Tim Mackey from the Bible Project. So he said that's how God views work. It's dignified, it's worthy. And this is what he did, and this is what we do.
I mean, I see that, and I do that the same, I do get enjoyment when I'm at work, when I put together a project, and then the customer loves it, and it's like, wow, I did it. Not so much being cocky about it, but it's just the fulfillment of it, just being able to do something that helps somebody else.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's a wonderful feeling. I mean, and that's what makes life worth working,
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. So good. Such good things.
Well, thank you so much. Before we close, is there anything that you'd like to share, especially since you're a teacher? Do you have any words of encouragement for those teachers out there that are kind of struggling? Because, like I said, with the COVID and just the drastic change in the whole teaching and student relationships and being separated. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that that you guys have been going through. So, do you have any words of encouragement as far as how to kind of navigate through that, and also for the students themselves, because they're in the midst of it as well? I know there's some students that are that work very well isolated, but there are other students that need to have interactions. So I mean, what you have any words of encouragement for both parties?
The one thing that comes to mind, which was my word for the year, is give yourself grace, whether you're a teacher or a student. And that theme of give yourself grace, what does that look like? You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have high energy levels and super low energy levels. Yeah. And to, I guess, honor that in yourself, and whether you're a teacher or a student. For me as a teacher, I have had the worst lessons that I have given ever. I was like, wow, there is no engagement. It's complex. It's hard. Yeah. And I think I've not lowered expectations, but I accept the level of engagement students are willing to give me at that time. I don't know what's going on. I remember where I asked a kid to answer a question. I called them out. I just saw the name, I'm picking randomly, but picked it. And when that kid unmuted themselves, there was so much chaos going on in the background. I was like, mute. I muted the kid instantly. Wow. And I said, I cannot see what's happening on your side. And I have no control over that. So I'm offering you an opportunity to learn something today. And however you can engage that time, I will have to be okay with it. And so I think the theme of grace for teachers, and whatever it looks like, whether it's go make yourself a cup of tea, friend, like get yourself a cup of tea, like do something that will bring you joy, or find those things that are in your control to deal with at that time. And just give yourself grace. That's all I can say. And it's been bumpy, I will say. There are a lot of lessons like, could have been better. but it is what it is.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
new
I can.
opportunities tomorrow morning. It's the beauty of education. We can start over and try something different, and it may or may
Yeah,
not work.
yeah.
So that's what I would say. Be
Well,
kind to yourself.
well, I love it. Well, thank you so much for taking this time
Mm.
out to,
Oh,
share
thank
share
you.
your experience and what God is doing in your life and your
Hmm.
experience in career. I feel led to kind of pray because
Yes.
I, you know
Yes,
I
please.
you know I, as we were talking, I'm thinking about teachers. I'm thinking about students and some of
Mm.
the challenges that you guys are
Mm.
facing, and unfortunately, sometimes in our day to day activities, we don't think about those things.
Nope.
But there are teachers that are, and I have family members that are teachers and counselors and so forth. But I just
Mm.
want to say a special prayer for you guys because you
Yes,
guys have a lot
please.
going on, and I just want to pray that God, will kind of, cover you guys and lift you up and give you whatever
Awesome.
resources that you may need. So I'll pray real quickly. Dear Heavenly Father,
Sure.
Lord, thank you right now for Joyce and sharing her story, Lord God. Thank you for what
Mm.
she's doing for students, and I just love the way that she has the passion to reach out to her students and teach in ways
Mm.
that are unique and fun and engaging, Lord God. And I pray right now that not all teachers have that right now. And so I pray for each and every teacher out there that's struggling right
Mm.
now because of just the environments that they're in, and those kids that are struggling because they're at home and they're dealing with family issues. They're dealing with
Mm.
so many things that are beyond them, to handle. And so they're struggling, Lord. And I just pray right now for each and every one of those students, Lord, right now that you just meet their needs, oh Father God, and work a miracle in their lives, Lord God, that they may be able to continue to learn and to grow and give them peace in that environment. Also with the teachers,
Oh,
oh Father God,
amen. Mm.
give them peace, give them the resources, give them the strength, Lord God, just to kind of navigate through some of the challenges, Lord God, and you be glorified in everything that
Mm.
they do, Lord. We thank you, we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Oh, what a joy. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
I thank you for this time. I'm so glad I've had the opportunity to meet you. I don't have to go call
Mm.
Ray right now. I call him Ray. Hey, Ray.
Love
Thank
it.
you, man. I appreciate you, man, meeting Joyce. And so
Awesome.
hopefully sometime in
And
the
we'll
near
stay
future.
connected.
Yeah, we definitely. Yeah, I'm a phone call, WhatsApp. Let's
Yes,
continue
sir.
to chat and hopefully we can get a chance to meet your family, your husband, your
Oh,
kids. And
absolutely.
that'll be some awesome. And I want to. My son is, man. He has a really desire. He wants to go to Korea. He's into the music stuff, and so he wants. I live
Well,
in Korea. I said, well,
he
hey,
needs
we
to
never
come on
know. God
over.
can open up the door for you to get there. So and I want to come out there too. So I guess when
Oh my
all the
goodness, that'd be
dust settles, maybe
amazing.
God willing, my wife and I have been talking about. It'd be great once to travel somewhere totally different. So who knows? We'll see.
Absolute. Oh my goodness. We would love for you guys to come over. It'd be awesome. So good.
But anyway, I know you have some things you want to enjoy your
Oh,
day. So thank you so much. God
yeah.
bless you and
Oh,
all
a
that you do,
pleasure.
and we'll be in
Amen. You
touch.
too. Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you again.
Thanks. You take care.
Take care.
All
Bye bye.
righty. Bye.